So originally I had a plan that would have given us a video last week, but then I scrapped that plan thinking I would get a video out last week. But anyways, welcome to Voodoo Whiskey Gaming, and this is my late review of Silent Hill 2 Remake. I play it on the PS5, it's also available on the PC. So Silent Hill 2 Remake follows the story of the original Silent Hill 2. You play as James Sunderland, who has received a letter from his wife who died 3 years ago. This letter has beckoned him back to Silent Hill. It was their special place, and now he must explore. He meets some interesting characters along the way, and some really freaky shit happens. From a storytelling standpoint, Silent Hill has always had some really interesting and deeper psychological elements and a lot of psychosexual elements. And I think they did tone back. Some of them are still present, and some of them are in some ways worse due to the new graphics, and worse in a good way, I mean. But then some of them, they made some choices where I was like, you kinda wussed out on it. That being said, it's still a great story, and they still did a good job telling it. I just felt there were a few things that they wussed out on. But let's get on to the audio, and the first thing I'm gonna say is the voiceover work is really good in this game. I thought they did a fantastic job. I think they did a really good job just bringing these different characters to life in a new way with better voiceover, and it adds another layer to the storytelling. As for the music, it is perfect. I mean, it's a fantastic soundtrack. I am going to own it, which is kind of weird and disturbing because it's meant to fuck with you and be all dark and disturbing. But at the same time, there is music that is just truly beautiful in this game, but at the other times when it needs to fuck with you, it does. And that applies to the sound effects. They are perfect. They are horrifying. They are amazing, and they will fuck with you as well. They will make you uncomfortable in a way that you didn't know you could be. Unless you're like me and you played the original Silent Hill when you were like 12 and it scarred you for life a little bit. So let's get into the gameplay mechanics and whatnot. And this game is a more classic survival horror game, which means monsters and puzzles. And I think they did a really good job on both, honestly. This does have a much updated combat system, which I was worried was really going to just destroy the gameplay and the tension. Because if James was this ultra badass all of a sudden due to the new combat system, which is much more third-person action than the original game was, no tank controls, no clunkiness there, which I guess kind of addresses the controls a little bit, but whatever. The combat does still feel a little clunky, but in a good way and an intentional way, because I mean, it just fits. I think that fits very well with who James is, because he's not some trained combatant. When you're aiming and shooting, he doesn't have a particularly steady aim. I thought that was a very clever thing to do. So you do have to actually work to aim with him, because this is probably the first time he's ever really used a gun. He's maybe shot one twice before is what it feels like. But the other thing they did to also compensate for that is they made some of the enemies way more difficult than you are expecting. Yeah, there's a dodge mechanic, but if you're not using it well, I did not use it particularly well, you're still gonna get hit. And some of these enemies, they added new wrinkles to. The mannequins can now climb on ceilings like fucking spiders and leap at you, which is horrifying, and you have to pay attention or else you're gonna get attacked. The mannequin demons are also playing hide and seek half the time, which if you're not paying close attention, they might pop out and get you. So things like that do add a layer to the combat that the new system requires you to adapt to, and it balances out the new, better combat system, really. And I gotta say, and this will tie a bit into the audio, the combat feels very visceral and sounds very visceral and chunky, and it's just so well done. One of the other more difficult enemies was the nurses. Man, they kicked my ass. If you're not careful and you're afraid to shoot them and you're trying to save ammo, I mean, maybe not expend all your ammo, but don't be afraid to shoot them. And then the puzzles. I thought the puzzles were well done. They required thought. I wasn't playing on the hardest difficulty. I was playing medium on across the board, and I liked them. I thought the puzzles were good. They weren't so challenging that I was like, oh, fuck this. This is killing me. So I gotta say, good job there. I enjoyed that. And then the one thing that they really did fuck up, in my opinion, is there's a forced stealth section. That was unnecessary. I think it was kind of a clever idea because the creatures they put down there are really hard to kill and you'd waste a lot of ammo. But this game isn't a stealth game. It's not built around stealth. You can actually technically stealth kill some enemies. But either way, it's not really a stealth game and it doesn't have proper stealth mechanics. Forced stealth section can fuck off. Then let's get onto the controls, and I think the controls work well. They do feel a little clunky, but it feels intentional, which fits because, again, James is not this like tactical genius. He's not a soldier. He's not any of those things. He's a normal dude being thrown into this stuff. So I think it works there. I think the controls actually worked well. I was happy with them. And when it came to the dodging, I'll be the first person to tell you, I fucked that up. That was me. I never felt like the dodging failed me. I felt like I failed me. In my brain, I still wasn't used to Silent Hill being dodgy and whatnot. And by dodgy, I mean me being able to dodge. Let's get into the graphics and visuals, and wow. Just wow. There are a few small things that I don't love, so I'm gonna get those out of the way. The fact that you can put masks and hats and shit on James, I don't like. That can fuck all the way off. That needs to stay the fuck out of Silent Hill. Keep that shit in your jokey games. I don't want it here. There were a few things, specifically fluids, that could have looked better. There was some like blood trickles that could have looked better, as well as there's a point when you're on a lake and they could have had some better effects. And then there was one directorial choice that I wasn't a huge fan of. I'm not going to go into the nitty-gritty details of it, but the cutscene where you are introduced to Pyramid Head, I thought was done way better in the first game. In the original game, it was much more disturbing. And while it's implied here, it was depicted in the first game, which is what made it more disturbing and what made it what it needed to be to help explain Pyramid Head, which also back to Pyramid Head, we know he's in the game, and the way they actually give him to you for the first time is really lazy. I was running through a hallway and there's a chain link and he's just chilling on the other side. I don't remember that in the original game, but I didn't like it here. I think that cutscene with him is the first time you should experience Pyramid Head. That being said, seeing Pyramid Head in full glory and his full amazing graphics is horrifying. Like, really, the new graphics just add so much detail to the world. It makes it feel dirty, grimy, abandoned, and just so very haunted. The added level of detail in all of the characters. I know some people are bitching about some character designs. Specifically, I saw Angela and Maria pop up. I don't have any problems with them. I think they look fine. I think they updated and gave Maria a still look that fits with why she exists and her character and all of that. And Angela, people are bitching because she doesn't look like a supermodel, and I'm like, I don't see why she needs to. Angela was a fairly average individual. I don't know why she doesn't need to look like an average individual. I understand people are complaining because Maria's original outfit was much more provocative, but I think this one fits very well. I also did love the little nod to her old outfit in the game. But then I want to say the creature design, the redesign, is so good because so many of them stick to the classic that it's great. The mannequin demons look grotesque and creepy and horrible. The lying demons, the ones that look like they're tied up in like a permanent straitjacket, those things look horrifying, and there's a couple different variants of them. The one that I wasn't entirely into was the nurse demons. I know they had kind of like this bubblish mask over them in the original game, but it looked a little more skin tight and a little more twisted and horrifying. Whereas in this game, it really does look kind of like a pink bubble on their heads. And it just looked a little cheesy the first time one of them popped up. I wasn't huge on it. There are a couple of different skins for them, and some of them are a little creepier looking, which I appreciated and I liked those. There's one boss where like, oh man, the new better graphics give it just so much more horror. Like, you know the idea of it and it didn't come across as well in the original game. It's so much worse in this game, and worse in a better way, like I said earlier, because the message is very clear in it. And then you just have Silent Hill as a whole, and it is horrifying. They married the visuals and the audio so well and brought it to life in a way that I was more than satisfied with. I thought they did a great job. It was terrifying. But then they did some other amazing things throughout the game. I love my subtle details, and there's some great ones. Like when James is picking up items while holding a weapon, he'll take his main hand off the weapon to pick them up because he's not trained to not do that. So I think that's a good character element. Angela's nails have been like chewed up, like she's been chewing on them, showing like mental and emotional distress. There are just some really great small subtle details. There are others I could really go into, but I don't want to. I think they should be experienced. But I do have a few complaints. There were a few times where I got caught on geometry, which annoyed the shit out of me. There were a couple times where nurses weren't close enough to hit me, but next thing you know, they're gliding across the floor to hit me, and that was some bullshit. Okay, so let's get into the wrap up. Is this game perfect? Is this remake perfect? No. Was it awesome? Absolutely. I was really into it. And I gotta say, this is the first horror game I've played in a long time where I was legitimately scared. Like, I had to take breaks sometimes because it was freaking me out. And that's what I want in a horror game, and it didn't feel forced like all those games that are like, run, hide, or die. No, they gave you weapons, and I was still feeling freaked out. That's good atmosphere, that's good development, that is just good horror. Making it proper scary. So if you're looking for a good scary game, I fully recommend this. If you're not sure if you want to play a good scary game, this is gonna scare you, in my opinion. I found it very scary. And maybe that is a bit of nostalgia talking because Silent Hill 1 through 3 were some games that really freaked me out when I was younger, but I feel like on its own, this game really did a good job scaring me. Okay, so in the comments down below, why don't you tell me, would you be interested in remakes of Silent Hill 1 through 3? That's my pick. Some people would want The Room. I wasn't a big fan of it. And as always, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please hit that like button. And if you like what I'm doing in general, share and subscribe. Have a good one.